go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It's markets in the morning. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Thursday, July 13th, 2023. It's Markets in the Morning, where we take a look at the price action of the cryptocurrency market, the altcoin market, Bitcoin, the stock market, gold, the dollar crumbling, and take a look at any other kind of news going on out there, any type of economic data that seems to be of importance today as we get ready to kick the day off as the stock market is set to open right now. So there we go. Stock market is now open. It is now the bottom half of the hour. Let's go ahead and see what's going on in these markets. Before we get started, of course, you can follow me over here on Twitter at BCBacker, my only social media. Do not use Instagram or Threads. Do not use anything. Report everybody for impersonation. That is not BCBacker on Twitter, on any other social media platforms. Just there and just here on YouTube. I do have a newsletter over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com, put out there twice a week. And then, of course, I do have bcbacker.com, which is a course with over 40 videos and over 11 hours of content of what I've been working on all of 2023. That is available over here. No subscription fees, one time $39, no recurring payments, no anything. Pay it, you have access, it's yours. All right, let's dive into the market here real quick. Bitcoin, $30,500. Most of the market is in the green, slightly to the green here for the crypto market, with the altcoin market sitting up about 0.75%, Bitcoin up about 0.5%. And really, you got a couple in the red down here, but mostly the market is in the green this morning as we get set to go. XRP sitting at 47 cents, still just ranging, approaching the end of time here in regards to what we've been studying here. Oh my goodness, we are getting close, right? Gets you there next week. We'll see what happens with that, if time has any bearing on any of that. As for the stock market, let's see, we just opened. So we've got the Dow Jones fighting here against the 702 Fibonacci retracement. So this was the E-mini Dow futures, which I was watching prior to the market opening. We were up about 80 points. Looks like as the Dow opened, it's now open up 95, 96 points in here. So still the battle rages on, unable to close above it. Yesterday was the fifth time we have spent some time period above the 702, and we could not hold it throughout the rest of the day. Looking over at the NASDAQ E-mini futures got above the 786 Fibonacci retracement. But before we get too excited, head on over here. Oh, look at that. We have the actual NASDAQ above it now. The NASDAQ has peaked above there. We'll see if it can close above it today, above the last retracement level here for the NASDAQ, the 786 Fibonacci retracement. Holy guacamole. There we go. Looking over here at the S&P. The S&P E-mini futures is battling against the 786 this morning. Looks like it still is right there on the button. Wow. We kind of caught that at that exact second that it was hitting that. Let's look over at live action of the S&P. S&P not quite there yet, right? So we usually see a difference there between the E-mini futures and between the actual indexes. But NASDAQ just this morning, right now, as we opened 3 minutes ago, poked above the 786 Fibonacci retracement level. Still not there for the S&P, still working its way towards it. And then the Dow still having its big battle right there at the 702 Fibonacci retracement, which it's been battling since November. So, man, okay. Getting pretty exciting out there because why? Boom, look at this sucker. The U.S. dollar currency index takes an absolute spill, which pretty much made a 20-minute video just kind of talking about that yesterday. We've been talking about this for months, expecting it to get down to that 99 to 100 level. This is where things will get interesting. We'll see if this ends up being a hold level down here for the dollar. Finally, we have gotten into that zone, 100.11. We'll see if this ends up being actually a Wyckoff distribution, and this is the big fat crumble of the dollar. But all eyes are really on this spot. If there's going to be an area for this thing to find support in here and this not be just an absolute doomtown scenario for the dollar, we're kind of getting close to that area where supports could be coming in. Should we go plowing through here and get, say, let's say we go below 90, 98. We may be seeing something much bigger happening with the dollar. But as of right now, this was what we've talked about for months. It turned out to be right. We're getting right in there. So, all right, cool. As for gold, though, gold took a pop yesterday. Currently, right now, sitting at 1957. So we might come back to gold and talk about gold here in a little while on whether this is a entire Wyckoff accumulation schematic happening for gold up here, and that we're actually working on sign of strength currently happening for gold right now. If we have time, we'll come back to that. Silver, same story, right? But silver would be in a different phase, right? Silver would have had its Wyckoff down here, and this would have been a back test of the sign of strength that happened there back in 2022. So as the dollar is crumbling, now down to 100.08. Holy cow. What is the stock market doing right now? NASDAQ is up 157 points. S&P is up 25 points, and the Dow is up 102. So NASDAQ still continuing to shift its way higher now after being through the 786 Fibonacci retracement level today. So these are all the good signs you want to see for the cryptocurrency market coming out here. However, while we see this in the NASDAQ, the thing that we have noticed throughout history is that it's actually been way more tied to this Dow. And so this Dow is really kind of the one that I focus on. But of course, it's positive to see that happening for the NASDAQ. And then the S&P still working on it, but the NASDAQ's definitely got it. But this has really been the one to show the ranging of Bitcoin and the breakouts of Bitcoin has all been the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So that's really my big focus. But hey, that's a good sign to see the NASDAQ already going. S&P sure taking a shot at it right now as the dollar is in crumble city mode, 100.07. Okay. As for news, right? So this is actually going to be pretty brief markets in the morning. As for news, we'll jump into this really quick. We did have PPI come out. I'll pull it, the producer price index. We'll pull that up here in a minute. Again, another sign of just like the extreme inflation is finally being reflected in the year-over-year numbers as having faded, right? All that extreme inflation is gone. People still try to for the last 6 months, still pointing to we're at 5, 6, 7% inflation, but not paying attention to what the current numbers are. I think we've seen PPI, producer price index, get down to zero now. No inflation year over year, which has been amazing. As for CNBC, I didn't see anything too huge. The big thing over here on Bloomberg, ex-Celsius CEO Machinsky charged in latest Department of Justice crypto case. Apparently, this guy got arrested this morning. So I don't know if you're going to let me read this article. If not, I am certain CoinDesk or Cointelegraph will have this article for us. Ex-Celsius CEO Machinsky charged in latest Department of Justice crypto case. SEC also sued Machinsky and Celsius in New York federal court. Celsius collapsed last year amid early crypto distress. All right, the former chief executive officer of bankrupt crypto lender Celsius Network was arrested and charged with fraud by the U.S. authorities following a probe into the company's collapse. Machinsky was charged with fraud and attempting to manipulate cryptocurrencies in federal court in New York Thursday. The SEC and the CFTC also filed lawsuits against Machinsky and the company. Prosecutors claim that from 2018 through June of 2022, Machinsky orchestrated a scheme to defraud customers of Celsius Network LLC and its related entities, according to the indictment unsealed Thursday. Celsius is one of several high-profile crypto firms that imploded last year. The company gained popularity paying high interest rates on digital asset deposits. But following the collapse of Terra USD, stablecoin, and a downturn in the digital asset market, the company was left with a giant hole in its balance sheet and unable to meet an influx of customer withdrawals. This is what was weird about 2022, which we didn't have in 2018, right? The downturn we saw in 2022 for I know when I ran the poll here in the chat and asked you guys, who of you were here in 2018 and 2019 and stuff like that versus who came in 2021. It's like 2/3 of you guys came in 2021. And the bear market of 2018 from a price depreciation perspective, how big the collapse was, how much the prices fell in 2021, or excuse me, in 2018 and 2019, it was far worse than what we've had here, like way worse than what we had in 2022. So to imagine how big, when the market breathes in and the market breathes out, what we've experienced in 2022 from a price depreciation or price fall perspective has been a cakewalk compared to what we actually had in 2018. But from like a narrative perspective and these companies collapsing and this fraud and this corruption and just these stories, these are all new. This just makes it feel more painful to have all these crazy things happening in 2022, which we didn't have in 2018. We were just collapsing for the sake of collapsing in 2018, in 2019. And then, of course, we had C19 in 2020, but, the altcoin market had already bottomed then. It was just like a tapping of the bottom once again when C19 happened in a blink of an eye. But like in 2022, it's been all these crazy narratives, and it all keeps going back to these companies that were just leveraged out of their eyeballs, huge gaping holes in their balance sheets, and then they tried to cover it up, right? And committed fraud. It's what you have here with Celsius, and then it's what you have with FTX. It's like there's two separate collapses triggering each other here, all based on a bunch of fraud by these individual people who like had too much power and too much money. It's just crazy. All right. Mashinsky's lawyers didn't immediately reply to an email seeking comment. The price of Celsius token issued by Celsius dropped about 6% to 15 cents. That's not terrible. According to data from CoinMarketCap, after the SEC sued the lender and Mashinsky, it had traded as high as $8 in June of 2021. Mashinsky is the latest crypto industry figure to face charges after a market downturn exposed shady practices and in some cases fraud across the sector. Mashinsky, who helped start Celsius in 2017, has been under intense scrutiny from multiple government agencies since his firm filed for bankruptcy and declared a $1.19 billion deficit 12 months ago. Celsius was a company that gained popularity paying high interest rates on digital asset deposits. Mashinsky would regularly position offerings as being as safe as those available at banks. That all changed last year when Celsius imploded following the collapse of the Terra USD stablecoin and the downturn in the crypto market, which left the company unable to meet an influx of customer withdrawals. New York Attorney General Letitia James was first to strike against Mashinsky and sued him in January for fraud. James accused Mashinsky of duping New York investors out of billions of dollars in crypto assets by making false and misleading statements about the lender's safety. The actions against Celsius mark the latest in a string of civil and criminal crypto cases brought by U.S. authorities this year. The Southern District of New York has charged a slew of industry actors for alleged misconduct, most notably FTX co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried, who's been accused of misleading investors and mishandling billions of dollars of customer funds. And that was wild, right? You have one guy committing fraud, then you have another guy committing fraud trying to cover up the other fraud. Like, it was weird, man. that was a weird time. All right, let's refresh this page and see if there's anything on here. Coinbase heads to court. Celsius arrested. Yep. Okay. Telegram wallet bot. Polygon proposes upgrading Matic. Ethereum scaling protocols drive zero-knowledge proof use in 2023. Meta to release commercial AI tool. Hot stories. Why is the Bitcoin price up today? Here's what happened in crypto today. Bad news for Ripple with library. BlackRock Bitcoin ETF could unlock 30 trillion worth of wealth. You know what I need to do? I'm going to make a Twitter post today. Now let's do this. Here we go. Let's see. Bitcoin ETF 2018. Let's go to news. Now I want... All right, here you go. Here's 2018, guys. September of 2018. Coinbase tries to court BlackRock to explore a crypto ETF. Coinbase extends crypto product offerings. Right? So there we go. We're talking about Bitcoin ETFs in 2018. ETF 2019. Let's go to news. Oh yeah, we'll get to this later. I know I'll find one. Let's see. What was it? What was it? It was VanEck. Bitcoin ETF, VanEck. Okay, we're gonna find it. Okay, right. And so here's again from 2018. VanEck tries a third time for a Bitcoin ETF. Right? So they tried again. We won't go through this 100 times, but the point I am making is that you see people saying Bitcoin's going up because ETF's going to get approved. Sir, you are showing your what is it called? Your green behind the ears. That you are a 2021er or a 2022er, having never been through this horse and pony show before. That we have had the ETF carrot dangled in front of us in 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. This kind of always happens. It's just kind of pushed out a little bit. Maybe it's going to happen. And, maybe one day it will. But if, to know that this happens all the time. We always have this happen. It's not something new. It's always occurred. And there's always this hope that it's going to end up happening. And then again, if it ever does happen, I probably will sell Bitcoin on that day, the day it would get approved. That's the real alpha. But okay. As for, let's talk about the stock market really fast. All right. Dow Jones up 92 points, NASDAQ up 165, and the S&P up 24, right? So we've got the S&P shooting back for the 786 fib. You got the NASDAQ above the 786 fib. You got the Dow still fighting underneath the 702 for the last 8 months. I talked about this in yesterday's video, and you guys undoubtedly who hang out here in Markets in the Morning all the time, you hear about it. The worry, of course, being at these retracement levels is just naturally going to be concerning to me because when everybody else is scared down here, I'm saying, hey, I'm not scared here. We're going to have to find some low at some point and go back to there, right? That we're going to go back to retracement levels. So it's what all of 2022 was. It's where all the super mega, Twitter Fed experts say don't fight the Fed. It's never going to happen. The Fed, of course, we get all the way back to the retracement levels. Then the Fed finally does their first pause. We'll see if they do continue pausing, or if they do raise. But even if we do get through here, I mentioned in yesterday's video, right? And you guys unquestionably hear about it all the time. We just haven't hit the 4.236 extension for the Dow and for the NASDAQ. So even if we go set a new all-time high, it would be just like we did over there with Bitcoin, right? Back in 2021, where we get over, and it's kind of one of these expectation things, right? It's not that I'm personally looking here for this to go moon mission and off and away we go for another 10 years of epicness. And if there even is an all-time high that does come in here, that it's going to be like that. So, short-lived, right? Do we just get this through the rest of 2023 and then off into 2024, it becomes Doom Town, Doom City? That would be my thought process. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot is that inverse relationship with gold. And just looking at gold and how it, this has been a interesting price behavior for gold, right? We've now hit this all-time high 3 times. It's so unusual. People say, oh, it's just a triple top. Usually you don't have triple tops, man. You can kind of get something close to a double top, but triple tops usually don't just happen. Just kind of looking at the behavior of it that it's so similar to just an accumulation schematic that had a spring down here. And we can have these in uptrends, and that's what you guys just saw a second ago is when I was showing this. This is Jim Forte's anatomy of a trading range. And that, we can have these without huge price drawdowns, huge long bear markets or anything like that. You can, have it and then get stuck in a trading range for a long time and then shift up and go. That still, it would seem that gold likely eventually will win. And the question is this working on, last point of support? Is this working on the sign of strength phase happening in here for gold right now? And I'm not saying we're going to break out and go with gold right now, but the thing I'm just trying to reiterate is that if the exciting time comes and the stock market does go off into those new all-time highs, we're on this channel at least acknowledging the similarities of how this is very typical before things really get ugly for a stock market. So, we've gone through this. We've talked about, we all know it. When Ethereum did this, when Bitcoin did this, they both went back up, right? They got above the 3.618. They had those big falls, right? Came up and ABC'd and then went off and then game over, right? So the reason we talk about this now is we're still kind of in that wall of worry. We're still in that concern. Everybody's not really convinced, right? There's been all this search for recession, all this worry of recession. And I was really trying to reflect this morning on what was it like in 2021? Because if you guys remember this for Bitcoin, this was your laser eyes and diamond hands. This was your just admit it's a bear market. And this is your we're going to $100,000, right? And what I'm really pondering this morning has been... And I often criticize the whole 10 to 12K thing for Bitcoin because it's a regurgitated thing that people say. But it also shows you how it goes with politics too, right? How people can get so herded together and kind of brainwashed by the exact same messaging, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, right? People can all regurgitate the exact same thing. The whole 10 to 12K, not saying 10K, not saying, 12K or 11.7 or 11.3, the regurgitated message was 10 to 12K. That when we were in here, the regurgitated message was just admit we're in a bear market. I cannot believe how many times that one particular thing was said. It was regurgitated over and over again. And trying to reflect back on when did we suddenly become that we're all going to 100K? Because I conducted the polls in here. I spend months, I'm on my trip. I'm on my trip around the country with my wife, right? I'm doing live streams. I'm making videos still while I'm on my trip. We're all, everything is great. We're making this bear market structure. And I'm just trying to say, this is likely the top. This is likely the top. And still 2/3 of people said we're going to 100K when I would conduct my polls, even people who watched my own channel. What happened? Where was that seismic shift that occurred where it was just admit it's a bear market? Remember, there was still the wall of worry. Nobody would buy it. And then finally, there was a little El Salvador pump, right? And then, Michael Saylor and company are all like, hey, everybody, buy $30 worth of Bitcoin to support El Salvador. And, everybody kind of, says, all right, fine. And then what happens? And then it just falls, right? And so still, even at this time, you still have that wall of worry. And I'm trying to reflect back on where was that moment where everybody became, we're going to 100K? Where did we leave the just admit it's a bear market? Because we weren't 100Kers here, for sure. For sure. A lot of people didn't want to buy the $30 worth of Bitcoin. When did we become... And not me, obviously. When did the community of crypto investors become, we're going to 100K? And I just can't recall if it was here or here? Where was it the actual break of the high that where everybody's sentiment really shifted? And so the reason I bring this up is because obviously we're still in the wall of worry. There's still everybody concerned of recession. There's still concerns of, the world is going to collapse. But history but what we know is we're coming out of the don't fight the Fed. Everything is going to collapse. We saw. Let me see if I can pull this up. Google Trends. Past 2004 to present. Okay. We had more searching for recession during that June of 2022 than we did during C19, right? People were saying we're going to recession and Google searching recession more than we were in here, right? So we imagine that, how lopsided it was of people thinking we're going into recession and that this is Doom City in June of 2022, which, bottom of crypto, versus C19. I mean, remember C19, how insane that was? People were more in belief of recession here in June of 2022, 1 year ago, than they were during C19. So we're coming off of an extreme, and one would have to think there's got to be some breaking point here where the general sentiment is going to flip to where YOLO, the Fed did a soft landing, inflation is cured, we're going to the moon, interest rate hikes are stopped, everything is great, and the whole sentiment shift happens all over again. But what it would show is that that's exactly what we saw in Bitcoin. It's exactly what we saw in Ethereum both times, or for both of those assets, was that there was that initial fall right off the peak, or right off of getting above a 3.618, right? Falling. And then we get back up. There's the huge worry, which there's the just admit it's a bear market, right? For Bitcoin. And then we saw the general public all in complete agreement of recession. They believed this is a recession more than they believed C19. And then we have to think, you just have to think, if this is going to go here, what will sentiment be? Because we know it took getting to at least this moment. It took at least getting here for the sentiment to flip. And I think it really, really flipped once we got right back near the high. That's really where the sentiment flipped. And it was no longer the just admit it's a bear market. It then became we're going to 100K. And this is always the challenge of the market when we have the extreme sentiment flips. And so just kind of mentally preparing for that, if that's what's coming. That if we're going to get through here, it sure as heck could be exciting. We could see crypto go on like a 3-month bull run of insanity. We could see absolutely great, awesome stuff. But just that most people, it will catch them by surprise that they will finally kind of capitulate over to the bull side. And when you then start saying, when people start finally turning into bulls here, and then price barely goes up a little bit more, and then you start screaming, all right, guys, this is it, we're done. They're going to laugh at you. They're going to say, what? They're going to say, we just started. How could we be at the end? And it's that, no, we started a long time ago. You're late. So just kind of food for thought. I don't know why I decided to go on that ramble today. It was something I was really looking at this morning. I wanted to share with you guys that if we do get out, I'm sure it will be exciting for crypto. I'm sure it will be epic. But just to kind of keep in mind, hey, look at that. That's also at a fib level right there. The 3.618 is also the Dow's fighting level here. How about that? Not a 20-year bull run, not a 15-year bull run. If it gets through these things, it's one of those types of scenarios, right? It's just a whoop. So, all right, wanted to share that with you. I don't know why, but I did. Oh, yeah, the reason I did was because it goes back to this thing with gold. That even gold's accumulation that it's done here for the last, we're almost at 3 years now, is like an accumulation schematic of Wyckoff accumulation schematic for bull. And these things don't go together. The Dow and gold don't go together into bull runs. Only one does. That's historically true for all of them. And I've gone through that in newsletters. I've gone through that in videos here on the YouTube channel. They historically don't go together. It's one or the other. And you have like an accumulation schematic after, over a decade of working this out. One could argue cup and handle happening in here, right? Get this off there. Right, you could argue cup and handle has been happening all throughout here. I think just long term, I do think gold is bullish. I think gold is going to win long term, but we have to remember stocks move slow. This could all take, it could take 6 months. It could take 9 months for something like that to play out. But yeah, we'll be watching that. There you go. DXY just hit 100 on the button. So we're going to have to, the reason why I bring this up is if we get it, right? If we get it, we're going to have to prepare. I'm going to be preparing so we are all going to have to prepare for that on Blockchain Backer YouTube channel. It's going to be like caution, right? It's going to be like, okay, great. This is awesome, right? For everything, this is methodical. For me, this is analytical. This is about how to beat the game. This is not about using the gambler's mindset of hooting and hollering and screaming. Sure, we'll have fun if it seems like things are set up to keep going higher, but it's not about sitting here and being this degenerate gambler for me. It's about really trying to fully understand everything going on here. And if we get a new high, this is, like we've talked about a lot, this is Wyckoff. This would be Wyckoff distribution. Pause this before we hear my beautiful voice. Right? Right? This is your, I know it's hard to see this, but you have your buying climax, right? And then finally our automatic reaction and then our sign of weakness. That those things all emerged in here. Automatic reaction and our sign of weakness. And then if we shoot up here, that's the ending game. That's okay. That's what that means is that we're looking at things like gold, right? Because if that's the case, to try to kind of be prepared ahead of time and saying, is there going to be a seismic shift that happens? I think a lot of you guys watch TXMC. He puts out a lot of data about recession, right? He puts out a lot of data about underlying weakness in the economy. And I agree with all those things, but it doesn't, of course, I always think charts are going to win, right? But even the charts do indicate something like that. And so if his fundamental analysis, which he uses a lot of data on, ends up being correct, which I think he will be, we have to kind of start preparing for what is the change. Can you just be long tech during a moment where something like this is coming? Or do we have to start trying to figure out where are we going? Where are the places that need to be heading to? Do we just go sit in boring old cash in our savings account accumulating 4% interest? Or do we go buy treasuries at 5%? Or are there asset classes to start shifting around in? That's my thought process. And that's what I'm going to kind of be looking forward to. As of right now, in the event of something like this happens, what do I think is going to be the best performer? I think crypto. So I think crypto is going to be the best performer. I think that's going to be the exciting one. That out of all the asset classes that I own, I do own treasuries, I do own cash, I do own gold, I do own silver. out of all of them, the one, and I do own stocks. 1% of my portfolio is in stocks. But out of everything that I own, the biggest concentration is in crypto because I'm the most convicted in that currently right now. But in the event of this, that will likely change. That allocation will probably shift down slightly. So we're just kind of preparing for that, knowing that we tend to have sentiment extremes and knowing that we would have another sentiment extreme here. Right? This was the sentiment extreme that occurred in here was laser eyes, diamond hands, and Wall Street bets, right? Short squeezes, aping into stuff. We watched retail all get real concentrated in that type of behavior here. And then retail all gets really concentrated in we're going into a recession type behavior here. We would expect them to all return. The excitement in the market, everybody's a winner, all that kind of stuff returning again, which will be great, right? Because we're here before that moment. That's the latecomers coming in after prices have already appreciated, right? So that's exciting if that came. But knowing that on this channel, we're going to fight against them, right? We're going to say, that's fine. You be the winner. You go ahead and take my assets off my hands. You can call me a dingus. You can call me the loser. You may have my assets. I will sell them to you at these elevated prices, and have a wonderful day. But we'll get that would likely become the scenario. So just kind of like mentally preparing for that. But I would say, gold. I'm not so convinced gold is going to go crumbling down. I'm not convinced it's ready to break out and go either. But I'm not so convinced this thing is going to super crumble down. And man. That dollar, though. Whew. All right. Otherwise, as for crypto, with short-term stuff going, did I delete all my stuff? That would stink. No. Okay. As for cryptos, we're getting near the end of the week, right? It's already Thursday. I think I really summarized my thoughts on kind of the crypto market on the video I put out 2 days ago, where it was really talking about the altcoin market, right? That Wyckoff accumulation, we did Wyckoff spring, and we're all kind of sitting in this same kind of thing right in here. That the way these typically play out is like this and then gone. So it's not surprising that we still stayed in here while the stock market has been so optimistic, while the stock market's been doing pretty well, while the dollar has been falling, just because structurally on this, as discussed in Tuesday, that's kind of how it goes. And so we still haven't broken from there, but it points to this. So you do you. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not investment advice. I have been accumulating crypto. All my last buys are done here if we get it. If we move back down to the bottom of here on the altcoin market, just where we were here a couple of weeks ago, still within the same range, this is where I'm done. And send it to the moon, please. Thank you. All right. Otherwise, I think we've done a good job. Oh, PPI. Let's talk about PPI real quick. The producer price index. And then we'll get going. Hold on, I gotta pull it up. All right, so today we got the producer price index month over month. So the producer price index measures the change in the price of goods that is sold by manufacturers. It is a leading indicator of consumer price inflation, which accounts for the majority of overall inflation. A higher than expected reading should be taken as positive or bullish for the USD, while a lower than expected reading should be taken as negative or bearish for the USD. So what we ended up having was a forecast of 0.2%. We came in with 0.1. You could see how high these producer price indexes were back in 2022. Boom. Then we've had that fall off that took place last year. And then here we go. We've still continued to keep those lower numbers. Now let's go look at PPI year over year. And ladies and gentlemen, we're at zero, or dang near it. So the insanity of inflation that took place in 2021 and 2022, with PPI topping at 11.5% year over year. Welcome back. There you go. There's your historical norms. This is an inflation indicator, just like CPI, or the Consumer Price Index, PPI, all the way back. It has returned. So there you go. And on that note, we now have a 99.99 over there on the DXY. Tracks, he says, hey, what are your thoughts on the yield curve inversion always being correct? Yeah, so I think it's probably correct. My personal thoughts are we're just in a giant bubble in the stock market. I think we're on the verge of Great Depression, but we haven't seen the excessive euphoria. And one of the reasons why it doesn't feel like this, while it's a technical location that you definitely can get rejected from, and the end of the world can happen right here at the 702 Fibonacci retracement level. From going through bubble pops historically, an element that is missing right here is euphoria. Where is it? There isn't any. There's still so much concern and so much worry that it doesn't have the makings of euphoria yet. And I think, like we just spent a little while talking about, the laser eyes and diamond hands and Wall Street bets, aping stuff, that's your euphoria. That's your wild retail investor behavior. We don't have any of that here. So it doesn't have the makings of what happens when peaks get put in currently right now, is that we haven't seen that yet. So I think in the yield curve inversion, it can have such a delayed effect, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be 2 months later. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, can it be up to 18 months or 24 months? It's got a 100% hit rate, but the timing of it can be, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen next month or in 3 months. It can be a year or quarters out, right? So when we're talking about this, this is my peak bullish scenario. There is no peak bullish scenario for me to keep the party going. That scenario doesn't exist. The number one optimistic peak bull scenario for me right now is if we can set a new high, and then that starts Great Depression, or that starts the major pop of the United States stock market, because of we always talk about these extensions. We talk about this price behavior. You get above the 3.618. You have the initial big profit take. Everybody is worried that is the real bubble pop, just like we saw in crypto. Just admit it's a bear market. We see it over there in Google Trends. Recession searching out of control. Retail gets it wrong. Retail pours back in, but they pour back in at the 4.236 extension. Then that's the real pop. So I think the inversion is likely predicting it. But what we're seeing is final distribution. This is distribution structure. So this is just big distribution happening up here and new highs. It's like with Bitcoin, right? So I bet we can look at the underlying indicators here too. And we see bearish divergences emerging here, right? My bet is we go set the new high, and we set the new high with another bearish divergence. Right, so you could see that in here, how weak we were compared to even way back here. That's typically a pretty good sign. And we're looking at monthly here. Let's look at the yearly just for the heck. Let's look at the quarterly. Look at the quarterly. Massive bearish divergence right there on the quarterly. So I think the inversion's correct, but I think what this one is, this is not your typical quick recession. This is one that's probably going to last for a little while when we eventually get there. So the major thing I'm going to be focusing on is how to transition through this moment. I don't know if we'll get it right, but that's what I'm going to be focusing on is how to transition through this moment, because just being long all assets, probably not the right thing to do. But there's got to be smart decisions to make, whether that's, getting a nice big stack of gold, whether that's getting a nice big stack of treasury bills and treasury notes and bonds, or are there other specific asset classes that perform very well in moments like this, where maybe it's not so much of an actual liquidity crisis where like all leverage is completely flushed, but it's more that there's some major rotation that is happening in the market and the money floods somewhere else. Typically, money is going to flood somewhere else, but you also have the concern of liquidity crises, because that is what we had during C19. It was a liquidity crisis. Even though gold stayed strong through that moment and was barely affected by it, even in that moment, it was impacted by the liquidity crisis, but recovered much faster than everything else, right? It went from this peak right here on March 9th to then going back and setting the high again the second week of April. It recovered very quickly, but was still impacted by the liquidity crisis, right? I'm not so sure we'll have that much of a liquidity crisis in the stock market initially. Once things heat up later, like we saw with Luna and UST, and finally all these, fraud gets uncovered, probably that. But, I don't know. We'll get into it another time, but it's looking pretty optimistic for the stock market currently right now, with the NASDAQ getting through the 786 fib level. The big fight still underway, though, is that Dow. That Dow just won't get through it. It got above it yesterday, but it did not complete it. So that is still the big fat fight going on with the Dow. All right. I think we've covered everything, right? Bitcoin still looks good. Just waiting on, gosh, of course I left all this slop on here. I still think we're just kind of doing one of these things and then off and away we go. But I don't think we'll take out these lows. And by the time we get here, I'm done. I'm in all the way. I'm don't get me wrong. I'm 99.5% in right now. If it took off right now, it'd be no complaints. All right, let's go ahead and hop into the chat. One more freaking BCB. What's up, my dude? Would any crypto that back the downside would cause the break to the downside would cause the others to do the same? Example: Bitcoin Cash had a massive pump, and if it dumps, would that be a concern for Bitcoin and ETH? Thanks. I don't see how Bitcoin Cash would have any influence on Ethereum or on Bitcoin, especially when Bitcoin Cash kind of went on and did its own thing. No, I mean, it's not on my radar. But thank you, one more freaking. Shock says, keep it lit, backer. Thank you. David N, member, welcome. Mr. Nobody. Hey, BCB, is there any reason why you use NDX, top 195 changeable truck, NASDAQ instead of the composite IXIC? They're going to be the same. Let's go look. I don't ever see a huge difference. No, I don't. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Oh, yeah, you're still much lower. No, that's just kind of how I've always done it. I used to use this one like 4 years ago, but no, it's just the one I always go with. Let's see which one CNBC is using. What do they have? They have it at 15,584. Right, so this is only at 14,000. I'm at 15,457. Right, so 15,580 versus IXIC, which is only 14,000. NDQ at 15,458. Let's do NDX, right? NDX 15,457. Yeah, I don't know. Up to you, man. But that's not what, that's not what's reported. Let's see what Bloomberg is using. They're at 14. Yeah, they're using the IXIC. I don't know, man. Personal preference, I guess. Ari, Thank you, Mr. Nobody. Ari Mondugno says BCBT 702 crew. Yeah, it's in the works. Michael J. Love gifted 5 blockchain backer memberships. Thank you so much. Jim Kramer, welcome. BBQ is the best, everyone. Eat BBQ. Oh, come on, Jim. I'll take that as seriousness, but I think we know Jim Kramer. Let's just say he finally got one right. There you go, Jim. Travel Days Rory says, "What's up, BCB? Love to hear your take on the BRICS currency. Curious if it would affect the US dollar. Always appreciate your opinion." I'm not entirely educated on all that. I'm the wrong person to ask on that stuff. It's kind of one of those things that I've seen memes for it for so long on whether or not it actually ends up coming to fruition and time on it and stuff like that. So I will just say I'm the wrong person to ask, buddy. But thank you. Let's see how the dollar is doing. Dollar, you're back above 100, 100.03. Pat, thank you very much, Pat. Shazad Kurdi says, "Thank you for always keeping us informed with a very generous super chat, Shazad." Thank you very, very much. Very kind. Michael J. Love, member for 3 months, says, "Hit the freaking like button." I can't believe I've been rambling for 50 minutes before I got into the chats. Oscar Hernandez says, "Best support for BCB is the like button." This is very true, guys. With 1,700 people in here and 569 likes, it's just tears of cry. It's the best way to support. Not super chats. Super chats, of course, are appreciated, but it's not super chats. It's not, retweeting, of course, is always great, man. Just the simple thing you can always do every time you turn the video on. Just hit that little like button, man. Thank you, Oscar. Liam Carroll says, "If we take it that XRP will do a circa 3x pump when Bitcoin rises, is that the start of our big run? If so, how long do pumps take, start to finish?" Well, you can look. So that's not, Liam. I will be honest with you here, sir. It sounds like you haven't looked at any charts, man. It sounds like you're kind of looking for other people to tell you stuff. This is what I kind of try to teach you guys. I'm trying to teach you guys how to do your own stuff. It's not for me to be here and be your trade caller. That's a very simple thing to be able to do on your own, is to open up the charts and go see these and grab the time tool and then just say, how long do these last? Right? That lasted 9 days. That lasted 5 or 6 days. This one right here lasted 3 or 4 days, right? This big monster 15Xer, right? This one lasted 24 days, right? This big monster right here. This lasted 21 days. This big monster right here lasted 11 days. And what is going to happen is it's going to be like I just talked about. It's going to be latecomers coming in, and they're going to be saying, "What are you talking about? This just started." And they'll be coming in on like day 15 or day 16 and not recognizing the historical price action of how long these things can last can be very quick. It can be very fast. And we talk about, hey, 2023 being an optimistic year. And we've said over and over again, it doesn't mean the whole year is going to be great. It means there'd be a moment like this within it, hopefully. And if there is, you have to be able to think quick on your feet, right? And if your emotions are kicking in, if you're hooting and hollering with the community, jumping into Twitter spaces, all patting each other on the back and not paying attention, over before you know it. But Liam, I give you that. First of all, thank you for the super chat. But I also am lecturing you a little bit to say, sir, You could do this stuff, man. Open it up. That's a simple question. It's not hard to do that kind of stuff. And I don't think anybody should be in this market without having the ability to answer a lot of those kind of basic questions in here and look at these things and understand it, or else you are really just relying on a lot of YouTubers and recognizing that a lot of YouTubers are getting entries into assets before they tell you about them, and then they're dumping them on you. Happens all the time. They could be getting paid to talk about something, and that there's a lot of misinformation out there. So you have to take it into your own hands somewhat. And so try to give you those things to say, hey, look, these were the things that did work. These are the things that didn't work. Picking assets that are going to be winners are going to be very difficult. But there are strategies to eliminate what were losers. And if you can at least eliminate the losers, it can help like increase your odds. And then figuring out, just measurements, all that stuff, technicals, those are all things that you can keep within your control. And then if somebody's going to shill you some type of coin, you at least have the resources to go do your own research on that coin and say, is this a load of BS? Am I getting pump and dumped on? So, all right. Thank you, Liam. Joseph Wiley. Do I need to worry about the stock market doomer stuff if I have a 30-year time horizon? Let me ask you, Joseph, did you get in any way emotionally distraught during the 2022 drawdown? Did you buy peak market? Were you here in 2018? Did you get pulled into the excitement? You could say that, it probably just would have sucked. It just would have sucked to had like bought into the euphoria here and then, wait 6,118 days to get back to those prices again. Just what kind of sucked, That's your call, man. If you found that in 1 year of 2022, you found yourself in any type of emotional distraughtness, now stack it into 30, bro. Or, stack it into, 5 or 3 or 4 down and then sideways for a decade. And then finally the slow grind. And then remember always during the slow grind, it's nothing but the wall of worry the whole time, right? Everybody's screaming, we're going to crash again, we're going to crash again, we're going to crash again. Then finally everybody becomes euphoric once an all-time high gets broken. The optimism doesn't return until then. But thank you, Joseph. 702, my dude. Thank you. Josh Drews, thank you very much. First timer, no message. Josh, hopefully you come up again later, man. It happens a lot to first timers. Denny says, how's the bond market? I don't think there's anything too huge going on in the bond market. It's in the treasuries. I don't follow a lot of the other corporate bonds. Matthew Gruska. There's really nothing crazy going on. You got long durations that are starting to fall a little bit. Nothing crazy, but the short durations seem to be unaffected. It's been at like this 5.25 for like what feels like a couple months right now on the 2s, 3s, 4s, and 6s. Matt Grushka. Remember, 1 month. Shout out and huge thank you for all you do in the community and who are current. Not to me. Here we go. Shout out and a huge thank you to all of you in the community who continuously give out memberships. Question for BCB. Do you play fantasy baseball? First of all, I will reiterate your thank you to the community. This community is amazing. They give out a ton of memberships, and it's very kind of them and absolutely incredible that they do that. I don't think I see that and it's not like I hang out in a lot of live streams, but man, I don't know a community that really does that like this. It surprised me. That was something I never expected in these live streams for something like that to emerge. There's just a huge community that gives this stuff out. It's amazing. As for fantasy baseball, I love fantasy baseball, played a lot of fantasy baseball when I was younger, and I would play it now, and I contemplated playing it. The problem is I'm so competitive. I want to win. And, like with fantasy football, you only have games, only 16, 17 games in a week, right? But with baseball, it's active management every day for, I don't even know how many games, probably the same thing, another 16 or 17 games, but you have to actively manage it every day. And I know you can set days ahead and have the rotation in and out of the bench. But at this point in my life, currently right now, I don't have the time for it to be as dedicated as I would want to be. I'm not okay with just setting it up and being like, I lost because I've lost interest in it. Okay, whatever. It's not who I am. If I'm going to play, I'm going to win, or be a sore loser because I tried really hard to win. I can't play it because I knew my own limitations on things like that. I will pay way too much attention to it. So I love fantasy baseball. I think it's awesome, but I don't play due to time constraints and knowing how much time I dedicate to it. But thank you, Matthew. Stephen Edinburgh says, the course is amazing. Your ability to discuss the emotional management aspect and being a general all-around decent human being is appreciated. 8 months listening, and what a difference to my life. Legend. Dude! Remember 2 months. Thank you. Thanks, Stephen. Oh, Dingus. Dingus says, hey, BCB, long-time listener, first-time caller. To give you a break from the chart, did you ever get woken up by the CD commercial at like 2 a.m. in the 90s? Love ya. Keep it up. CD? What? Like, do you mean CD like certificate of deposit commercial? Or are we talking like Now Hits 14 with Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, everybody's favorite, NSYNC, Christina Aguilera? I don't remember if you're talking about a CD, like a certificate of deposit commercial or something like that. No, but if we're talking like Now Hits 14, yep. But also, like in the early 2000s, if you were up really late, it was that you'd get woken up by that Girls Gone Wild DVD. That one. Like, look, I'm trying to go to sleep here. Okay, Ben Davenport. Big thanks for those gifting free memberships. Ben, there you go. And big thanks to BCB for absolutely everything. Everything. My girlfriend loves that you are a Taylor Swift fan. Yeah, the deal is, guys, when you raise a little girl in this era, you're likely going to listen to Taylor Swift. Just saying. It's going to happen. And then you're going to like Taylor Swift. No shame. There's a lot of other people that you could like, and it'd be weird. It's not weird, dang it. All right. Cash Me Outside says, so is the halving, the Bitcoin halving, reflected in the price? Hit the like button. He's, of course, joking. Cash Me Outside. Thank you, sir. Josh Drew says, hey, BC Bear, not sure if my super chats are sending, but I wanted to ask your XRP exit strategy and how you plan to rotate crypto profits for the stock market in Great Depression. Big thanks for you. Right. So that's kind of what we're talking about in here. I don't think I know all the answers for any rotations. I mean, the only obvious thing is cash, right? I think the only obvious thing is cash and treasuries. That's the only obvious thing. Now the question is, what else is it going to be? Is it going to be gold? Is it going to be silver? Are there any other asset classes like energy stocks or energy producers that are also going to perform well in that scenario? And I think that's what the next 6 months is probably going to have to be. Side time research, right? Figuring out, are there any, right? If we're in a liquidity crisis, probably nothing is safe. But if there's a rotation thing, keeping an eye on that. So I don't think I know all the answers. I think the only obvious things are cash, treasuries. And then when you look at the Great Depression from the 1930s, we don't have the historical data to know how gold performed during the crash. We don't know how it performed from 1929 to 1933. But what we know is when the crash was done, and as we were sitting there at the bottom, the United States government confiscated all the gold and then forced United States citizens to sell it back. They were allowed to keep 5 ounces of gold per person, but anything in excess of that, they had to give back to the United States. They had to sell back to the United States government. And then once they did sell it back for $20.66 or whatever it was, the United States government then repriced it the next year to $35 and let them all buy it back. So obviously, gold was valuable during the Great Depression, at least by the time we got to the bottom of it. Question is, we don't know how it performed in the middle of it because the price was fixed to $20. But Josh, thanks for the super chat. You did come through clear there. Ski Rich says, I've been subbed since the beginning of 2021 and you have changed my life, brother. Much love. Dude, thank you. First timer. Thank you, Ski. Daniel Crone, member 1 month, says, if the Dow reached out to the 4.236, wouldn't you still have the retrace after that for the final pumps? That could take a long time. It could. Yeah, it sure could. But you'd have the initial fall, right? The initial fall would be pretty ugly. Be kind of like, even in like the softest scenario of it, was like this, right? Pulling all the way back down to these lows again. And then you're talking about, hey, do we retrace from here, right? And do we, this is pathetic right here for Bitcoin. ABC, but look how just so tiny. But, if we moved up here, up higher, right, could you see movement in there? For sure. But nothing did well during that, right? And yes, Daniel, stocks move so slow. So slow. Hugh Donnelly says, will you watch Barbie or Oppenheimer first? I don't know what Oppenheimer is. Of course, I'm sure like everybody, I'm getting fed the Barbie commercials on Twitter, and everywhere I go, I'm getting fed the Barbie commercials. Probably something, I don't know, like I can't tell from watching that if that Barbie movie is rated G or PG or if that's like a PG-13 movie. I can't tell from the commercials. It obviously looks super cheesy, but like good in a good cheesy way, right? Like super uncomfortably cheesy jokes. So I don't know. I have a little girl, right? there's a probable chance I will end up seeing that. Cash Me Outside gifted 5 blockchain backer memberships. Thank you very much. And then Pitbull says, bro, Dash broke the corona low. Do you see a multi-year Wyckoff accumulation with potential of a new all-time high? Inflation is low, has developer growth, etc. Thanks for your expertise. Yeah, with that, Dash was one of those ones in June of last year. I was like, I'm consolidating. Dash is one I was consolidating out of into Zcash. It's not like Zcash has done much better. Those are just my privacy coins, right? I don't know how privacy is going to do. It's just been bizarre to me. And like, I've kind of gone through this a million times on the channel that it's like people say they want privacy, and I'm not going to go too deep into it today. But then they don't act on it. And it's kind of like, what other analogies have we used for it? Like, you want security, you believe in security, but you don't get the security installed until after you've been victimized, right? It's one of those types of scenarios where we all believe in it, or like, everybody talks about wanting to consume made in American products, but then they go to Walmart and they buy everything made in China, and then they talk bad about China, but they go buy it anyway. It's that same kind of way with money. Like, people get mad about the IRS is going to spy on them if they spend at least $600 in a transaction. They get uproared about it, but they don't take any type of protective measures to prevent that, right? So it's kind of like, we'll see. Will there be some wake up in the market on if we're going to use these things as currencies? The unquestionable thing is there has to be privacy to it. We cannot have public ledgers. You cannot allow all these scammers on Twitter. You cannot allow all these retailers to see your transaction history, who you sent payments to, and how much money you have in your wallet. It just can't happen. It doesn't happen now. That's not an improvement of the current monetary system. We say, oh, but it's a limited supply. Also incredibly volatile. And is the trade-off worth it? Is the trade-off worth it to where, like, when I go swipe, my card at a store, if I go swipe a MasterCard or Discover or a Visa card, that retailer cannot see where I have swiped that card elsewhere. That retailer cannot see how much money is in there. If we allow Apple, if you allow Amazon, if you allow Facebook, Meta, Twitter, all these companies to have access to knowing how much money is in your account and where you are spending your money at, do you think you're going to be a target? Not only by them, but by all the scammers in the world who want to know your address and know how much money you are and know to target you, to victimize you. There's no way. There's no way we'll use any of this stuff as an actual currency in any manner without being able to hide our balances from public and hide our transaction history from the public. That has nothing to do with trying to do anything illegal. It has nothing to do with any malicious intent of wanting to have privacy. It is just a thing we already have. We have that currently in our current monetary system and in our payment methods. People will, there's no way. There's just no way we'll do it without privacy. There's just not even like zero chance. Zero. So between the two, I had opted. I took my gamble on Zcash. All right, guys. So let's look at the markets one more time real quick as we wrap this up. We're at an hour and 11 minutes. I've done a much better job recently keeping these closer to an hour. Most of the markets in the green today over here in the crypto market. The Dow is up 88 points. NASDAQ up 147. And the S&P up 23 points as the dollar has been taking another whooping today at 100.01. We did even see a 99 squeaked out there on the screen earlier this morning. So the dollar just taking a turn down here. As for metals, you got gold sitting at 1960, up slightly. Silver's been doing relatively well, up to 2465, so it's up 2.18%. That's a pretty decent move for silver. There you go. Silver taking out that recent high from back there in June. So now back to a couple of months ago there for silver. NASDAQ down, DXY. That's the big one. The big one we've been waiting on. We've been talking about markets in the morning all year long, right? When did I start markets in the morning? I think I started it in February or March. We've been staring at the DXY talking about the breakdown eventually coming almost every markets in the morning. And that's been a favorite thing of mine. No, I'm just kidding. I was talking about, man, when we're in ranges and we're in them for a long time, and I got to say the same thing over and over again, it is just brutal. It's the hardest part about doing this gig is the ranging, and that's definitely the case here for Bitcoin in this tight range as it sits here for forever, and we just kind of wait on it. But the DXY finally got the breakdown. Now we're getting back down into those levels where it could hold. This is kind of the big deciding area right in here. As we get back into these April, May price levels down here at 100 to 99 on if this is going to be the supportive region for the dollar. And my thoughts are if we actually break through there, we may see just a big collapsing thing going on here for the dollar, and that this was a massive Wyckoff distribution that actually ended up happening here. So that's definitely possible. So this will be the focus of us for the next several weeks, months, years, however, not years, I'm just kidding. But weeks to months on if we're going to kind of find some support in this area to tell us that, things are not going to be as crazy with the dollar. But if we plunge through there and get down into the 97s, we may be watching the collapse of the DXY. Because this is the only real support level I see here in this whole scenario that I can draw up to say there would be some supports in here. Otherwise, my mind immediately goes to this was Wyckoff distribution. This was up thrust after distribution. That's game over for the dollar. So, all right, guys. Let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up, you guys. I hope that you are having a great day as we are now on Thursday, dude. Let's go. Tomorrow's Friday. I said yesterday I wouldn't get a video out. I worked all day and I did. I'm feeling better today, though, which is good. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just take the next day off from a video if I'm not feeling any better. But I'm feeling pretty good. So we'll see how things go today. If you're looking for something to do, of course, this is, as you all know, I tell you this every single day, but you still need to go here, sir or ma'am. 95% sirs, 5% ma'ams. This is bcbacker.com. You guys know it. This is all the stuff, all the education, all videos created very much like in my YouTube videos to get yourself super educated on crypto, not just technical analysis. I know that sounds boring. It's not. It's from your favorite content creator, the blockchain backer. But also talking about historical behavior of the markets and a lot of like the things that I've learned that it goes beyond just TA. It's just having the fundamental understanding of the ebb and the flow of the crypto market when it comes to the altcoins, when it comes to the stock market, when it comes to Bitcoin, and that it's more than just here's a price target, here's a block reward halving, easy peasy. But either way, we'll go through it together, guys, over here on the channel. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Pi says, let's get the likes up. We're at 882, man. I'm pretty happy with that. If we want to get it to a 1,000, that's cool. Oscar Hernandez says, will gold follow the DXY? Probably not down. Probably not down with the DXY. I would say probably eventually up. I think that's my best guess there. But all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Looking for something to do, go to bcbacker.com. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like the live stream. Give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one, guys.